Man, it's a lot of good happening at Leslie household. I just feel like you are winning. Like your house right now has this bright beam of golden light on it. No?
Yeah. I felt like that at times. It's also hard to feel like you're not failing at everything during the pandemic, because everything's different. The movement is slower. My wife and I often feel like failures as parents, but we have to remind ourselves that we're living through something that happens once every 100 years, if that.
Yeah. I mean,
It's been, but it's been like you said, like the best of times and the worst of times. I'm just still processing, man.
yeah. We've had this conversation when I was back in New York. And are you still in New York now? Are you
I'm
out
in
on the West?
LA now.
So when we were both back in New York, I remember having the conversation with you about like just trying to focus on the thing that was happening right now because it was like so much good happening. You didn't want to miss it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You didn't want to miss it. And this past year, I feel like we've all learned or had to maybe even relearn, how to sometimes hyper focus,
Bro.
how to hyper focus.
And it meant any shred of joy these days, anything that comes your way that's worth celebrating, you got to celebrate it, even in the midst of a fraught time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got Little Boy on the way in March, and this beautiful movie that Regina King has made, and um, all the goodness of last year too. In the middle of the tragedy, it's a difficult thing, but I guess that's the job, is to try to hold both things, try to hold them onto both of them.
Yeah, that's the life part, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the human experience part of life is that we have both and sometimes at the same time. I was
Yes.
just talking to uh like psychologist about that. We can talk about that later, but
Okay.
it is when you and I get together,
I know. No,
we have some real conversations. I'd be like, oh, I got
I
6 minutes left. Okay, let me dice. Uh, you mentioned a son on the way. I know that you have a beautiful baby girl already, but I wonder for new parents, and feel free to answer this as honestly or not answer at all.
yeah.
But I wonder for new parents with all of that is happening right now. You know what I mean? Knowing you've got a young Black boy that you're about to bring into the world,
Yeah.
what are the conversations that you and your wife are having about, because I can imagine you are one of those people who's like, I want to make sure, are we doing this right? We're doing this right. Like I want to feel good about this. And
Yeah.
what are the conversations now between you two?
We want to just make sure that we give him a real good understanding of his history. Thomas Jefferson said, "A morsel of history is something so rare as to always be valuable." I want to give my kids more than a morsel of their history so that they can withstand and have a context for who they are and where they are.
Mhm.
We surround them with, family, where we keep family close. And, Renee Elise Goldsberry said this beautiful thing to me about bringing these babies into the world. She said, especially for Black people, she said, I mean, please, if Black people in America were waiting for, you know, uh, an environment that wasn't hostile, the generation, we might not be here.
Mm,
We might not be here
mm.
if people waited for things to be perfect in order for us to. So we step out on faith. We step out on faith, and we
Man,
push
I,
things forward.
that is so beautiful. It's also a demonstration of what happened on this set. I know. Now, granted, you were in some of the best hands, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your players that are alongside you in your cast are. I mean, y'all had me and friends of mine who I watched this movie with, all from different ethnic backgrounds and heritages, and I just Regina King.
Oh yeah. Full stop. Regina Blue
Period.
King. Regina Blue King. Listen, she is.
Like in the choir when they say,
Yeah, no, full stop.
yeah,
Because you can't lead from the back. Nobody leads from the back. the work that was done on that set was able to be done because the environment was set up, because our leadership made it so that we could, we were set up to succeed. So she was just an exceptional director. She brought the same sensitivity and exceptional taste, exquisite taste
Yeah.
to her work behind the camera as she does in front of the camera. Watchmen's one of the finest performances I've ever seen on television,
Bruh.
period.
Period. And at one point, I remember saying, maybe first, second episode in, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this.
I know.
This is,
Uh,
this is, whoo. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, so then for a portion of that, right, to feel like that was our last week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of energy, that kind of anxiety producing events.
Yeah.
To then sit in my living room,
Yeah,
and see these men navigating this evening together with all that they brought, all of the life that they brought to this room. Sam Cooke, it must have been, and I'm going to speak for you, but it must have been a dream for you to be able to perform that song at the end of the movie. And it also must have been an incredible, like, yeah, we gonna make sure we get this all of the way right.
Dream is the right word. At first, it was a stress dream. First it was like one of them dreams you wake up in a cold sweat. Like, what we trying? Like, nah, we not trying to do that. But thank goodness, because of the process, I really had to surrender to the process and trust the process. Because by the time I did form my mouth to sing that tune in New Orleans, I did feel ready because of the interrogation that had happened in that room, the interrogation of who Sam was / who I was and am. Because when Kingsley Benadir as Malcolm X is coming at you,
do you hear me?
Right, questioning who you are and what have you done. I mean, you ask those questions of yourself, so it was an intense process, but I trusted it. And by the time I did go to sing that song, I felt like Sam was never closer to me than on that day.
Did you watch interviews with Sam? Did you consume a ton of
all of it?
Yeah.
There's not a Sam Cooke interview that I have not listened to repeatedly. Yeah, all of it. Because we had a dialect coach on the film, black dialect coach, Trey Cotton, brilliant brother. He worked with Eli and I, and yeah, we listened to Sam a lot, and I tried to come as close to his speaking voice as I could.
When your tear, I'm not giving nothing away, but when your tear occurred, I clenched my face and realized I had the same tear.
We shared that.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it was like a transformative, like you took me to a different place. It was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful.
Regina, ever so gentle, as you can imagine, that was the scene I was most afraid of, the moment in the movie I was most afraid of. And so she was really, she walked me through that day. And it was we didn't do it a lot, probably 5 or 6 times, but she every between each one, she would come and say something that would get me to the next place, because we knew it was a fine line.
If you can remember, what would she whisper? What was she like as a young actor? Like, I just am curious about that.
Tell me, what would she whisper? She we by that time we had also had, so Regina is one like the great directors too, because it wouldn't make sense to you because Scott, she's going to say what you need to hear. When she comes to whisper something to you, it's not what she would say to me. The things she was saying to Eli or Kingsley was different. We had developed our own thing. So whatever it was what I needed to hear to go a little farther.
Okay, now I'm going to let you go with this because they're telling me to wrap, but I just wanted to make sure that I ask you this because I haven't seen you in a long time. And I know I read, Chadwick Boseman's passing was difficult for all of us. It has been, it's still difficult for all of us. But I read that it forced you to make some life changes. It called into question some choices you were making. And I just wondered if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that.
The gift of what he gave us. I could cry right now. I don't want to do it. I'm so uh, astonished at the grace and the dignity that he and people around him preserved his end. You know, the way that they did that preserved his legacy. So we don't have um, a legacy of. They preserved his strength
Mm,
and his dignity. You know, that is the memory of Chadwick, but he's gonna be like Marilyn Monroe or, you know, or Elvis, or, you know, I mean, his picture on a t-shirt means something, is what I'm trying to say. You know,
yeah.
that is that there's a legend around what he's left here with us, that is of strength and dignity. That's something we can grab onto, and that is a decision that somebody makes. That doesn't happen by accident. Said all that to say, so that I'm just so grateful for. But 43 years old, I just can't even, you know, I'm almost 40 years old, and so to think that I might have, if I'm lucky, right? You know, none of us knows.
Right, right.
You know, to that 3 years, it could be all up. Anyway, you know, that kind of stuff just makes you appreciate your life, really ask and answer for yourself. What am I doing while I'm here?
Mm.
What is my responsibility to the people that I love, to my community?